Welcome to Mind Set in Stone podcasts, where we dive deep into the most compelling books on the shelf. Join hosts Dave and Poppy as they uncover the stories, themes, and ideas that shape our understanding and inspire curiosity. Get ready to explore the big ideas that leave a lasting impact. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Mindset in Stone podcast, Curious Minds. We're back for another deep dive. Today, we're embarking on a journey into a really powerful book. It challenges us, truly challenges us, to look inward. Brianna Wiest's The Mountain Is You. This deep dive, it's all about uncovering those, often hidden forces that hold us back. We're talking about the self-sabotaging behaviors that can feel like absolutely insurmountable mountains in our lives. Our mission today is to extract the core wisdom from this incredible source material. We want to help you understand not just what self-sabotage is, but maybe more profoundly, why we do it. And crucially, how to finally move past it to, claim the life you desire.
Yeah, and what's truly fascinating here is how Wiest completely reframes our whole understanding of adversity. It's quite provocative, actually. She suggests that even things like discomfort, significant change, they often work in our favor. Much like, a forest fire is absolutely essential for new seeds to sprout, for a healthier ecosystem to emerge eventually. Our minds, she argues, undergo something she calls positive disintegration. Now, that sounds maybe a bit alarming. But the concept isn't really about failure. It's presented as a necessary dismantling, almost like our mind's immune system initiating a kind of reset. It's a cleansing process, a necessary collapse of old, maybe outdated self-concepts to renew and really expand our understanding of who we are. It turns out we're often at our most fertile, most expansive at these edge states, when we're forced out of our familiar comfort zones to regroup and truly transform.
Okay, so if we connect that idea back to the book's title, what does this all mean for the mountain? It sounds like it's clearly not just some external challenge sitting there in front of us. Wiest argues pretty strongly that the mountain is actually an internal conflict. Is that right?
That's exactly it. It arises from coexisting but often conflicting needs. You have the conscious part of you, the part that knows exactly what you want, and then there's an unconscious part simultaneously holding you back, often for reasons that seem illogical but make sense from the unconscious mind's perspective, like trying to protect you from perceived harm or failure.
So it's that internal block, that maybe unstable foundation between you and the life you aspire to live. It's less about the grand hardships life throws at us sometimes, and more about maybe the years we've spent accumulating tiny traumas, unaddressed needs, and all the coping mechanisms we developed, maybe unconsciously, to deal with them.
Which really raises the critical question, doesn't it? If we are the mountain, how on earth do we begin to climb it? And Wiest offers a powerful, very direct answer here. It's not the mountain you must master, but yourself. The journey is fundamentally about facing that internal block. And perhaps surprisingly, she argues that this internal work is the only path to your genuine freedom, the only way to become who you are truly meant to be.
So we're going to unpack the sometimes surprising ways we unconsciously self-sabotage, and then crucially offer some clear, actionable strategies to help you break free, guiding you, hopefully, from the foot of your metaphorical mountain towards your highest potential.
Let's dive in.
Okay, let's really unpack this core idea that Wiest introduces right at the start. She makes it incredibly clear. There is nothing holding you back in life more than yourself. Now, for many people, that might sound, harsh, like a judgment. But Wiest seems to reframe it as more of a monumental truth we need to face. Not to assign blame, but maybe to empower us.
That's a great point. And yeah, the counterintuitive part is realizing our self-sabotage isn't usually about not wanting success or happiness. That's rarely it. It's often a deeply ingrained, albeit maladaptive, coping mechanism. Wiest define self-sabotage as what happens when we refuse, often unconsciously, to meet our innermost needs directly, perhaps because we don't believe we're capable of handling them or the perceived consequences.
So it's like a workaround.
Exactly. It's a way our unconscious mind tries to give us what it thinks we need, or maybe protect us from something it fears, without ever addressing the real underlying issue. She illustrates this brilliantly with a story about Carl Jung's childhood. Despite having this brilliant mind, he genuinely disliked school. Hated it, apparently. After a fall one day, he started experiencing these uncontrollable fainting spells. Just out of the blue. He later realized this was actually an unconscious desire manifesting physically to avoid school. He called it a neurosis, a psychological symptom acting as a substitute for an unaddressed, deeper struggle or suffering. Our minds are incredibly resourceful, even in creating our own obstacles.
Wow, that's a fascinating example, how the unconscious can literally manufacture something so disruptive to get a need met, even indirectly. And here's where, for me, it gets really interesting. Wiest points out that this self-sabotage often stems from deep, often irrational fears. Is that right?
Yes, precisely. We tend to project our real, perhaps scarier, more fundamental fears onto less likely, more specific scenarios. By doing this, we make them safe things to worry about because subconsciously we probably know they won't actually happen. It's almost like finding an avenue to express these deeper anxieties without truly confronting the core fear, which might feel too overwhelming.
Can you give us an example? How does that projection of fear play out in, like, everyday life?
Absolutely. Think about someone who might be deeply afraid of being a passenger in a car. Seems pretty specific, right? Car anxiety. But Wiest would suggest digging deeper. This could actually be masking a more profound unconscious fear, maybe a fear of losing control in their life generally, or perhaps a fear of moving forward into an unknown future, letting someone else metaphorically steer.
I see.
So if you only try to fix the surface problem of the car anxiety itself, maybe through exposure therapy for just cars, you'll likely keep hitting a wall. Because, as Wiest puts it, you're essentially ripping off a Band-Aid before healing the real underlying wound. The mountain isn't the car ride. It's that internal resistance to letting go or progressing or trusting.
That makes so much sense, like chasing symptoms instead of getting to the root cause. Okay, building on that, Wiest also highlights how self-sabotage stems from these unconscious, often negative associations we form over time, our whole self-concept.
Yeah, the one we spend our entire lives building from all sorts of inputs, parents, peers, past experiences, culture.
Right. That self-concept has a powerful confirmation bias built in. It's sort of designed to affirm our pre-existing beliefs, whether they actually serve us well or not. Can you elaborate a bit? How do these unconscious associations manifest as self-sabotage?
Certainly. Well, if, for instance, you find yourself consistently struggling financially despite trying hard, Wiest would encourage you to explore whether it links back to maybe some childhood beliefs you absorbed. Perhaps hearing phrases like, all rich people are terrible, or money is the root of all evil, or maybe seeing struggles around money. These can create a subconscious resistance to wealth. Even if consciously you really desire financial stability or abundance, you push it away without realizing it.
Or maybe associating being healthy with being vulnerable.
That's another great example. Perhaps you saw a loved one become ill shortly after they seemed to be in peak physical health. So unconsciously, health gets linked to fragility or impending loss. These underlying anxieties, these associations, are often just reflections of those limiting beliefs we picked up, actively pushing away the very things we consciously strive for. It's quite the paradox.
And sometimes, she suggests, it's simply about what's unfamiliar. We humans seem to have this natural resistance to the unknown. It feels like the ultimate loss of control, maybe. And this is true even if the unknown is something benevolent, something potentially wonderful for us. Wiest argues that the discomfort we feel with something new is often confused with it being wrong or bad.
Exactly. And she draws brilliantly on Gay Hendricks' concept of the upper limit to explain this phenomenon.
Right, the upper limit. How does she connect that idea to our sort of natural resistance to sustained happiness or progress?
Wiest integrates Hendricks' upper limit concept masterfully. She shows how even when things start going incredibly well in our lives, maybe better than ever before, we might subconsciously trigger self-sabotage. Not out of malice toward ourselves, but because our internal system's happiness thermostat is set too low based on past experiences or beliefs. When our circumstances, our joy, our success extend beyond the amount we're accustomed to, the amount we unconsciously feel we deserve or can handle, we initiate sabotage to return to what feels comfortable and familiar, even if familiar is less happy.
Wow.
It's a really profound insight. Our programming often pushes us to seek what we've known, not necessarily what genuinely makes us happy or fulfilled. Even if that known state is less satisfying or even outright painful, it feels safe on some deep unconscious level. And this also links back to those underlying belief systems. If you subconsciously believe, say, that suffering makes you more worthy, or that for every good thing there must be an equal and opposite bad thing waiting, you'll likely self-sabotage to maintain those familiar, albeit limiting, narratives.
That's a truly startling insight, isn't it? The subconscious preference for familiar pain over unfamiliar potential joy. So, okay, if we start recognizing these patterns in ourselves, what's the very first step we suggest for someone who is truly ready to break free? It sounds like it has to start with a kind of brutal self-honesty.
It absolutely does. You hit the nail on the head. Before any real change can happen, Wiest insists on radical honesty. The book heavily emphasizes getting out of denial and into crystal clear clarity about your personal state of affairs, whatever area you're struggling with. This is fundamentally about deciding, consciously deciding, that you love yourself too much to settle for less than what you genuinely deserve and are capable of.
So it's not about papering over things with affirmations if the reality isn't matching up.
Precisely. It doesn't serve us to use endless affirmations to placate our true feelings if we're not actually being who we want to be or living the life we want to live. The very first step in healing, according to Wiest, is taking full accountability, facing how you really feel about your life on the inside, regardless of how it might look on the outside to others.
That feels like a profoundly direct, maybe even difficult way to start. It strips away all the denial we might be clinging to. Wiest also talks about hitting rock bottom, not just having a bad day, but as a real tipping point, where our usual coping mechanisms spiral out of control and we're forced to realize we're the common denominator in our patterns. What's the declaration she says becomes the foundation for that kind of radical self-reinvention?
It's a powerful moment, she describes. It's the moment we declare, and this is essentially a direct quote, capturing the sentiment, "No matter what it takes, I will never accept my life getting to this point again." That declaration, that deep internal commitment, becomes the absolute foundation for radical self-reinvention. It's a profound commitment to a journey of self-awareness and growth that ideally you cannot easily turn back from.
It's a powerful declaration indeed. But, okay, moving from that moment of raw realization, that rock bottom clarity, to actually making concrete changes, that can feel incredibly daunting. So how does Wiest then guide us to identify these specific self-sabotaging patterns in ourselves and maybe more importantly, resolve them in our daily lives? Let's maybe dive into some practical takeaways she offers.
Absolutely. This clarity, this willingness to finally confront that common denominator ourselves, it naturally leads us towards identifying specific patterns and figuring out how to resolve them. Wiest offers a kind of roadmap, and here's a crucial first practical step for you, the listener, based on her work. Practical takeaway 1. Get radically real with yourself. The very first step is to exit denial completely. Wiest suggests you literally write it all down. Get it out of your head and onto paper. Every debt, every bill, every asset, your income. Make it concrete. If you're struggling with self-image, she suggests listing exactly what you dislike about yourself or your body. No judgment, just facts. If it's anxiety that's holding you back, write down everything, big or small, that truly bothers or upsets you. This process provides clear, undeniable facts. It moves you from that vague state of denial into a position of conscious choice. You can either make peace with your current reality as it is, or you commit wholeheartedly to changing it. That lingering in-between state, that's what keeps you stuck.
That's definitely challenging, but I can see how it creates a necessary starting point. It's so easy to live in that vague discomfort otherwise. So here's practical takeaway 2. Confront uprooting. If you constantly find yourself needing that fresh start, jumping from relationship to relationship, changing jobs, or even towns again and again, you might actually be uprooting yourself to avoid deeper, unresolved issues. Issues that inevitably just follow you wherever you go. The first step is just recognizing the pattern. See it for what it is. Just noticing it is powerful.
It is. Then trace back your steps. Try to figure out what's truly driving you away each time. What discomfort are you fleeing? Then the work is to get crystal clear on what you really want long term. What does stability or healthy commitment actually look like for you? And here's the hard part. When you feel that familiar urge to flee discomfort, make a conscious decision, just this once, to stay. Stay with the feeling. Confront the discomfort. Try to figure out why you might be resistant to healthy attachment or finishing what you started. Define what a healthy attachment or completed project would look like for you. Remember, healing isn't about settling for less. It's about getting clear on your past so you can truly thrive, not just survive by running.
That takes immense courage to lean into the discomfort instead of instinctively running away. Now, many of us also fall prey to perfectionism. It can feel like a noble pursuit, right? Striving for excellence. But Wiest argues it often becomes a major roadblock. How does she advise us to overcome that particular pattern?
Wiest is very clear and quite practical on this one. Practical takeaway 3. Overcome perfectionism by taking action. She argues perfectionism isn't really about wanting everything to be right or excellent. At its core, it's often a hindering behavior, a form of procrastination rooted in fear. It sets up these impossibly unrealistic expectations, and that fear of not meeting them holds us back from simply showing up and doing the important work of our lives.
So the solution isn't to try harder to be perfect.
No, quite the opposite. Her advice is refreshingly simple. Don't worry about doing it well, especially at first. Just do it. Take the action. Don't worry about writing a bestseller on day one. Just write the first page, or even the first paragraph. Don't aim for a Grammy-winning hit. Just make some music, experiment. Focus on progress, not perfection. Mastery, she reminds us, comes from consistent, often messy, imperfect effort over time, not from initial flawlessness. So get started. Just begin. And from there, you can edit, you can build, you can refine, you can grow. That first step doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be.
Okay, speaking of mess, how does our external environment, like a messy room, a disorganized life, connect to self-sabotage? What's her guidance there?
It's deeply connected, according to Wiest. So, practical takeaway 4, address disorganization systematically. Chronically messy space often creates more than just physical clutter. It creates mental chaos, distractions, and interestingly, it can serve an unconscious purpose, like keeping you from confronting what you really need to do or preventing you from feeling like the kind of person you truly want to become. If your space feels chaotic, it's hard to feel calm and focused internally. Wiest argues that a clean, organized space isn't just about aesthetics. It's absolutely essential for thriving mentally and emotionally.
But the thought of tackling a whole messy house can feel overwhelming in itself.
Totally. And she acknowledges that. So don't get overwhelmed. The advice is to start incredibly slow, like ridiculously small. Pick one drawer or one small corner of a room. Work on just that. Declutter it. Organize it. Then, and this is key, implement a simple routine to maintain it. Arrange your space bit by bit to work for you. Make healthy habits easier. Create a designated spot for mail so it doesn't pile up. Have a consistent laundry system, even if it's simple. The goal is to slowly acclimate yourself to a clean, organized environment. You will likely find as you do that you feel less stressed, more in control, more capable. It's hard to show up as the person you aspire to be when your environment makes you feel like someone you're trying to leave behind.
Those are really tangible steps anyone can start with. Okay, but what if the issue isn't a specific behavior like procrastination or disorganization, but the very goal we're pursuing? Wiest suggests we sometimes sabotage ourselves because deep down we're chasing the wrong dream entirely.
Exactly. And this is a subtle but powerful one. Practical takeaway 5. Reevaluate your wants. Sometimes the dreams we hold for our lives aren't actually our own. They might be adopted from parents, peers, society, expectations we absorbed about what success should look like, or perhaps they were genuine ambitions at one point, but we've simply outgrown them. We've changed, but our stated goals haven't caught up. Wiest points out that we can fight endlessly, struggling and sabotaging ourselves, trying to want something we don't genuinely desire anymore. And it always leaves us feeling empty, unfulfilled, and maybe even resentful.
So how do we figure that out? How do we know if a goal is truly ours or just an old script?
That requires some honest introspection. When you find yourself consistently struggling with something, hitting inexplicable roadblocks, ask yourself, do I actually want this job, this specific relationship goal, this particular achievement? Or do I just like the idea of it? The title, the status, the external validation it might bring. Does the day-to-day reality of pursuing it actually energize me? Or does it drain me? Wiest encourages us to bravely let go of outdated ideas of success, even if it means disappointing a younger version of ourselves or perhaps others. Doing so creates the necessary space for what truly resonates with who you are now. Your primary responsibility, she implies, is to make decisions that align with the person you have become, not the person you once thought you should be.
That's a profound shift in prospective loyalty to your current self over past expectations. Okay, beyond these specific patterns, Wiest places a lot of emphasis on understanding our internal guidance systems, our emotions, our instincts. She suggests our triggers aren't just pain points, they're actually guides to freedom, if we learn how to interpret them. How does she suggest we start interpreting these triggers as, well, messages we need to decode rather than just sources of pain to be avoided?
It really is about reframing them. Wiest emphasizes that our emotions, even the difficult ones, show us where we are storing unresolved pain, yes, but also what our inherent needs truly are. They contain vital information. Take anger, for instance. It's often mischaracterized as purely negative or aggressive. But Wiest sees it as a potentially beautiful, transformative emotion. She argues it's healthy to feel anger. Anger shows us where our boundaries have been crossed. It highlights what we find fundamentally unjust or unacceptable. It's meant to mobilize us. It's an influx of energy, of motivation, to change what needs changing either within ourselves or in our external circumstances.
So not something to suppress, but something to listen to. What about other difficult emotions like jealousy or regret?
Same principle applies. Jealousy, while uncomfortable, isn't just a petty, negative feeling. It can act like a compass, pointing directly towards what we truly desire in life. It reveals ambitions or qualities we admire and perhaps aren't allowing ourselves to pursue. And regret. It's not just about wishing we could rewrite the past. Wiest suggests regret precisely illuminates what we absolutely need to create or prioritize going forward. It motivates us to live up to our own expectations now to avoid future regret.
That insight about interpreting emotions, especially fear, brings us to a really critical distinction Wiest makes. It's something many people struggle with. How do we tell the difference between a true, helpful gut instinct and a destructive, panicking fear? They can feel so similar in the heat of the moment.
That's a crucial distinction, absolutely. Wiest explains that our true gut instinct tends to be quiet. It's present moment focused. It functions to make things better, to help us navigate out of harm's way, often without a lot of conscious overthinking. It's a calm inner knowing. It responds only to what's happening right now. Fear, on the other hand, fear is usually loud, it's panicking, it projects intensely into the future, often catastrophizing and making things seem much worse by focusing relentlessly on worst-case scenarios that, statistically, have a very low probability of actually becoming reality. Remember, our feelings are often reflections of our thoughts about reality, not always accurate reflections of objective reality itself. Fear often stems from those thought patterns.
Okay, that's a helpful distinction, quiet and present versus loud and future focused.
And this leads us directly to another vital practical takeaway, building on this idea. Practical takeaway 6. Disconnect action from feeling. So often we are held back in life not because we are genuinely incapable of making a change, but simply because we don't feel like making it. We wait for motivation to strike. But when Wiest points out, our feelings are often wired as comfort systems. They produce a good or safe feeling when we are doing what we have always done, staying within our familiar zone, which our brain registers as safety, even if it's not serving us.
So waiting to feel good about doing something new or difficult might be waiting forever.
Pretty much. But the good news is, Wiest says we can actually train ourselves neurologically to prefer behaviors that are genuinely good for us in the long run. The trick is learning to take the action before you feel like doing it. Use your logic, your rational mind, your clear vision for what you want to guide your life initially. You generate motivation through momentum, not the other way around. You have to simply begin, take that first small step, and allow your life, your energy, even your brain chemistry to reorient itself, to prefer the behaviors that actually move you forward. The feeling of wanting to do it often follows the action, not precedes it.
That's incredibly powerful. Stop waiting to feel like it. Just do it. Wiest also talks quite a bit about building emotional intelligence as being key to self-mastery. And she brings in some neurology here too, particularly around dopamine. Can you connect those dots for us? How does emotional intelligence and dopamine relate to self-sabotage?
Yes, building emotional intelligence is indeed paramount to self-mastery, in her view. It's that fundamental ability to understand, interpret, and respond to your own emotions and those of others in an enlightened, healthy, and productive way. Without it, we just get lost in the emotional storms, reacting instead of responding. What's more, Wiest points out something fascinating about our brain chemistry. Neurologically, dopamine primarily drives the desire for more, the seeking, the anticipation, not necessarily the pure pleasure of having or achieving. This is partly why achieving a long-sought goal often leaves us feeling a bit flat, or quickly wanting the next thing. It creates a potentially perpetual cycle of striving.
And how does that connect back to sabotage?
Well, this can be one of the many subtle reasons we might deeply sabotage the things we truly want. We instinctively, perhaps unconsciously, know that arriving at a goal won't really allow us to just rest on our laurels. It won't mean we can abstain from life's efforts. Instead, achieving often just makes us hungrier for more, or creates a new level we feel pressured to maintain. We might fear losing what we gain, or fear the endless striving required to keep it or get to the next level. So, paradoxically, we might push success away. We stick to the familiar, albeit uncomfortable survival mode rather than fully embracing true thriving, because thriving feels like it demands more perpetually.
That's a complex loop. So if the pursuit of external goals often leaves us wanting more, and we're potentially sabotaging our own success out of this deep-seated fear of constant striving or loss, how does Wiest suggest we find true fulfillment? Perhaps by addressing the internal baggage from the past that keeps us stuck in this cycle.
It's a really beautiful perspective Wiest offers here on healing the past. She states quite clearly that releasing the past isn't really about forcing yourself to forget it. You can't just will amnesia. Instead, it's about consciously, intentionally building a new life right here, right now, that is so immersive, so engaging, so fulfilling, that the past slowly, naturally fades into a distant memory. It loses its emotional charge. You can't force yourself to let go through sheer will, but you can actively build something new, piece by piece, day by day, that eventually overshadows the old pain.
That feels more proactive.
Yeah.
She also suggests a specific psychological technique.
Yes, she does. She suggests a powerful psychological trick, almost like a visualization exercise. You intentionally re-enter past traumatic or painful memories in your mind. But then you superimpose a new narrative onto it, one coming from your healed future self. Imagine your older, wiser self stepping into that past scene. Imagine that future self offering guidance, comfort, and reassurance to your younger self who is experiencing that painful moment, telling them everything will eventually be okay, that they are loved, that they will get through this, that they are strong. This process can shift your perspective in the present. It helps detach the old emotion from the memory and helps you reattach to your strength and wisdom in the now.
That's an incredibly imaginative and potentially very healing technique. And speaking of building something new, piece by piece, Wiest talks a lot about microshifts as being the true engine of lasting change, rather than relying on those dramatic lightning bolt breakthroughs we sometimes wish for. What exactly does she mean by microshifts, and how can listeners apply this?
Right, Wiest really stresses this point. True, lasting change rarely happens in those big, spontaneous epiphanies or overnight transformations. Those might happen, but they aren't the norm, nor are they usually sustainable on their own. As a writer, Ryan Holiday also notes, epiphanies aren't usually what's life-altering. It's the slow, steady restructuring of our daily habits and choices. Wiest calls these microshifts. These are tiny, almost imperceptible increments of change integrated into your day-to-day life. Decisions made hour by hour.
So this leads to the final practical takeaway.
Practical takeaway 7. Embrace microshifts. Focus on these tiny, nearly undetectable decisions. Make them consistently. Don't commit to an hour a day right away. Just read one page. That's it. Want to exercise more? Don't sign up for a marathon tomorrow. Just do it for 10 minutes today. Want to spend less time mindlessly scrolling on your phone? Deny yourself the chance to check it just one time today when the urge hits. Just once. These small, consistent actions, they compound over time. It's like that old analogy of a penny doubling daily. It starts small, but the growth becomes exponential. They create permanent baseline adjustments in your life. And crucially, you don't need to wait until you feel motivated or inspired to make these shifts. You just need to make one tiny microshift at a time and let the energy and momentum build naturally from the action itself.
That feels so much more achievable than trying to overhaul your entire life at once. So bringing it all together. What does this focus on internal work, honesty, and microshifts mean for building a genuinely new future? One where you become, as Wiest puts it, your most powerful self. She suggests it involves a few key elements beyond just consistent action, right?
Indeed. Becoming your most powerful self, in her framework, involves being acutely aware of your weaknesses, not judging them, but understanding them, knowing where your limits are, what your triggers might be, so you can navigate life with more ease, more intention, and less reactivity. It also means developing a willingness to be disliked sometimes, recognizing that others' judgment will always exist, no matter what you do, and choosing to act anyway from a place of your own integrity and purpose, rather than seeking universal approval.
And acting on purpose.
Yes, and critically, it means acting on purpose. Finding that dynamic intersection, that sweet spot between what you are genuinely interested in, what you are uniquely good at, your skills and talents, and what the world truly needs or values. Having this clear vision, this sense of purpose, is absolutely essential, she argues, for finding your inner power and for staying the course when things inevitably get difficult. It fuels the microshifts.
And finally, when Helsters brings it all back to something quite fundamental, almost old-fashioned principles. These are often overlooked in our modern search for quick fixes or hacks. She has that really powerful statement you mentioned earlier. More money does not solve money problems. Different relationships do not solve relationship problems. New work does not solve work problems. Your future life will not solve your life problems.
It's a stark truth, isn't it?
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
So why are principles so foundational, in her view, to escaping self-sabotage and building a genuinely healthy, sustainable life?
Because principles, as Wiest explains them, are fundamental truths. They are matters of cause and effect, not just fleeting opinions or temporary beliefs. They are the underlying laws governing how things work, whether we like them or not. And yes, they are often boring. They aren't instantly gratifying like a quick fix might seem to be. But they are the absolute bedrock upon which a genuine, healthy life is built from the inside out. Think about principles like consistently live beneath your means to build financial stability, or prioritize honest, positive relationships through consistent effort and vulnerability, or commit to the principle of lifelong learning, being willing to learn from everyone you meet.
So they provide the structure.
Exactly. Life doesn't truly change in those sudden flashes of brilliance or grand, unsustainable gestures. Real transformation comes through the slow, deliberate, often unglamorous process of adopting these fundamental truths, these principles, and integrating them into your daily actions, your micro shifts. They eventually remove the need for constant, draining willpower because they become your default operating system. They create an automatic, positive trajectory for your life.
Wow. Well, this deep dive into Brianna Wiest, The Mountain Is You, has truly revealed so much, primarily that the greatest obstacles we face are so often within us, right? Manifestations of those unmet needs, irrational fears, and outdated limiting beliefs we've discussed. But the hopeful part is, it also gives us such a clear, actionable roadmap. Through that radical self-honesty, through understanding our emotional triggers, embracing those powerful microshifts, and finally building a life based on unwavering principles, we can absolutely move from self-sabotage to genuine self-mastery, to the path to freedom, the path to becoming who you truly are. It really does begin with facing yourself, facing your own internal mountain.
And remember, as Wiest emphasizes, healing your mind, overcoming that mountain, isn't about trying to return to who you were before the struggles began. That person is gone. It's about gutting yourself, in a way, of what no longer serves you, the old beliefs, the unhelpful patterns, and then becoming someone entirely new, someone more resilient, more self-sufficient, more compassionate, and ultimately more empowered. It's fundamentally about being willing to feel what you're afraid to feel, to consciously step into discomfort instead of running from it, and to trust, deeply trust, that you are capable of handling whatever comes your way. Your worries, she suggests, are often just that subconscious defense mechanism trying to keep you safe in familiarity. True protection comes from developing internal strength, taking wise action, and gaining self-understanding, not from endless rumination or avoidance.
We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and a spark of inspiration. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and check back for more episodes as we dive into new worlds of thought, one book at a time. Until then, keep your mind set in stone and your curiosity open. This has been a Big L Riz Media podcast, where big ideas meet lasting impressions.